What's up, everybody? It's Dan, and we're here for another episode of Movie Talkies. Today, we're going to be talking about Blade Runner 2049. So Blade Runner 2049 is a direct sequel to the original film directed by Ridley Scott titled Blade Runner, which came out in 1982. And you can describe it as a sci-fi neo-noir detective film which takes place in a dystopian near future. So it's famous for its multiple releases. It came out 5 times since its original release in 1982, and the final one, being titled The Final Cut, came out in 2007, which is said to be Scott's original vision and true vision. It wasn't a huge box office success. People either really loved or hated the film, and as a result really divided the fan base. But nonetheless, it really influenced sci-fi films for generations to follow. So approximately 30 years later, we have Blade Runner 2049, which is directed by Denis Villeneuve. And when I first heard that Denis Villeneuve was directing this movie, I was so excited. As a fan of the original movie, I thought this was the perfect choice. Again, like I said before, the original film was known for its slow pacing and its plot twists, and Villeneuve is really known for his films like that. Arrival was like that, and Sicario, with a long build up until the end and then a big reveal. So I knew Blade Runner 2049 was in really good hands with Villeneuve. And you can honestly say that Denis Villeneuve is becoming a auteur director in today's Hollywood cinema. Just the way that he has his own style, and it's replicated throughout many of his films. So I would honestly make the argument that he is an auteur. What are your thoughts, Professor? So Blade Runner 2049 stars Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Jared Leto, and Ana de Armas, and a really good cast and supporting cast that follows up in the rest of the film. And honestly, acting is one of the strong points of the film, I'd say for sure. There was never really any point that I was taken out of the immersion because of the acting. So, we see Ryan Gosling kind of doing his typical Ryan Gosling character, this kind of brooding, moody character, but he just seems to bring something new to every time he plays a different character. And then Harrison Ford obviously doing an awesome job following up from his starring role in the original Blade Runner films, and then Jared Leto coming off of a very controversial Suicide Squad in his depiction of the Joker. I think he really redeems himself in this role. He's a very mysterious, kind of godlike character, and he plays Wallace, who basically creates these replicant characters. So what are replicants, you're probably wondering? Replicants in this dystopian Blade Runner future are essentially man-made creations that look, behave, and perform exactly like humans. Hence, they're called replicants. And then you have the Blade Runners, who essentially are cops or detectives who are hired and designed to take out rogue replicants. And that is where Ryan Gosling's character of Detective K comes in. Essentially, his role as a Blade Runner is to track down and destroy older versions of replicants. However, he runs into conflict with himself because he's not even sure if he is a replicant or if he's human. So the film really deals with intense themes of humanity and what it means to be human, as well as self-discovery, and as well as the film is really about morality, whether or not we should be creating these technologies to be benefiting humans, and if they really are benefiting humans. So moving on, what are the things I liked about this film? I would honestly go as far to say that it's my favorite film of 2017. Now, I know it is 2018, and it was honestly my most anticipated movie of 2017, and the only movie I really wanted to see in 2017, but it's funny enough I didn't actually see it until now. But I'm late to the party, I know, but I can honestly say it is probably my favorite film of 2017, and there's multiple reasons behind that. First of all, the cinematography and design of the film is something that is just remarkable. It's so reminiscent of the old film, but so new, and it's just it's amazing to see on the screen. And the scope of the film, for example, there's just such amazing establishing shots through the city, and this kind of cyberpunk style with all the neon signs, and there's the big Coca-Cola advertisements that are so reminiscent of the early film. And that's one thing that really makes this movie so amazing, is that it replicates. And so you can see how the technology is advanced, but it's still retro. It has this kind of retro aesthetic to it. So the old technology has evolved, but in this universe. So for example, there's this scene where Kay is in an old casino, and he's looking at a jukebox, and the jukebox is still futuristic in this world, but if we look at it through our lens, it kind of looks like an old jukebox from the 60s, just with a holographic image. One thing that a lot of people are critical of the movie for is the pacing. And I honestly didn't find that to be an issue, and I think that's because I'm a fan of the original Blade Runner film. I knew exactly what I was getting into when I was going in to watch this. And it's funny, because you look at the criticism of the film, they almost are identical to the criticism of the original film, which really speaks volumes to Denis Villeneuve's work on the project. Even the criticism is the same as the original film, which to me is a good thing, because I loved the original film. And that doesn't surprise me that this film wasn't a box office success. It was actually a box office disaster. And that doesn't surprise me because it's a Blade Runner film. A Blade Runner film is supposed to be slow-paced, it's supposed to be ambiguous, and it's supposed to be this mysterious, drawn-out, long-paced, kind of ambiguous film. And some people would see that as a negative thing. I don't really agree with that. Another huge pro of the film is the sound design and the score of the movie. It was just so reminiscent of the first movie, but it blends new and old together, which is kind of like my overall review of the film, is how successfully it blends old with new. The original film, the film score was done by Vangelis, which had this beautiful synthesizer sound, which really made it stand out, and it was one of the most unique and also one of the most iconic scores of all time. There are hints of the original Blade Runner film kind of dropped in the score here and there. However, it never becomes dependent on the original score. It's very unique in its own right. So the new score is done by Hans Zimmer, which is one of my favorite composers of today. He's done basically any famous Hollywood action movie that you can think of. He's done the Dark Knight movies. He's done Inception, Pirates of the Caribbean. The list goes on. Hans Zimmer is awesome at the end of the day, and Blade Runner soundtrack was amazing in this film. So if I had to be critical of the film, there are a few things that I wasn't particularly a huge fan of, and the biggest thing for me would be the ending of the film. And like I said earlier, Villeneuve is known for his long drawn-out films that have an ambiguous ending, but unlike his other films, I was kind of disappointed with the big reveal at the end of this movie. It just didn't do much justice for me. I was expecting there to be like this big, awesome reveal that I was going to my mind was going to be blown by, but it just didn't do that for me. I was just kind of left wondering, wait, so that's it? Really, that's it? And for me, that was just kind of disappointing to me. But Blade Runner 2049 is a phenomenal movie, and if you're a big fan of the original movie, or just a fan in general of sci-fi and detective neo-noir films, then I'd honestly say Blade Runner 2049 is a must-see on your list. You have to go see this movie, and if you haven't seen the original, 100% recommend going to see that. But you should watch the final cut, because that is Scott's true vision of the film. So that's it. That's all I have to say about Blade Runner 2049. Well, that's not all I have to say. I could talk about this movie forever, and I want to see it a bunch more times, and I'm so upset I didn't get to see it on the big screen. Anyways, that just proves that it was a good movie and how much I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it again, and I will definitely be buying it on Blu-ray. That is my grading scheme for a movie. If I enjoyed a movie, then I will be buying it on Blu-ray, and you can most certainly say that I will be buying this on Blu-ray. So until next time, I hope to see you guys later. This has been another episode of Movie Talkies. My name is Dan, and I'll see you guys later.